The best of 5 finals are here. In the bottom right, we have Shopify Rebellion Lambo. And in the top left of Gress Spawn, it is Team Liquid's Clem. Who's at the very least an SCV scout, if not actually 2 racks. Oh, okay. I was going to say it's fairly late SCV pool. Very much a suboptimal proxy 2 racks, but an optimal, well, still suboptimal because it's an SCV with the minerals in his hand, but still more optimal for the forward 2 racks, something that Clem seems to be wanting to experiment with, which I think is certainly good for him. Now that his TvZ has never really been all that suspect. I mean, it's been worse than people want it to be at times. You know, when he faces the Korean Zergs, for instance, I think people are generally fairly disappointed by the results. But I don't think it's ever been suspect. Like, the 3rd CC powerful mid-game play that Clem usually plays, I mean, it's still pretty freaking good. And I would say it's still really good against the European Zergs. No problems there. But Clem wanting to experiment, this is a perfect place to do so. Oh, cheeky boy. Ooh, he's really changing it up. He's not just changing it up to be the 2 racks forward position. Hey, what am I doing behind this? Usually, it's a command center at the very least behind this. And then beyond that, it's a little more questionable. No. He's actually just going to go ahead and 3 racks. Reaper. Dedicate? All in is a word that I am wanting to use, but I don't know if it's actually accurate. So, trying to change things up. I believe he did do this in Gamers 8. It's not a game that I saw. I think I saw the tail end of the game, and it did not look very pretty. I can't quite recall. But this is a real change up here. This is not what you would expect from Clem. Even if he has shown it at one point, it's still far more rare than a macro game from him. And it looks like he's a little bit messing up on the build, perhaps. 5 minerals that SCV was holding. Made a later supply depot. But the Reapers are out. And of course, Lambo at this point knows that it's the 2 racks, but only now does he realize how dedicated it is. However, you really aren't going to be changing a whole lot 2 or 3 racks, I would say, as far as the very beginning of your response. You know, it's not that he shouldn't have gotten the 3rd hatch down. No, he probably should still have the 3rd hatch down. It's actually very important that he does get it down. The drone is going to get intercepted, because if it did, he would never get it down ever. But what now is different, now that he knows that it's going to be more than 3 Reapers, is that you would want to make sure that your queen retention is a little more on point, a little more on point, a little more on point. 1 queen going to go down here. And that you do consistently make lings, which if it was only 3 Reapers, you'd really want to be careful about how much you over-defend, especially as a Zerg player. 2 Reapers are low, but regen is kicking in. 5 Reapers in total, still alive. 2 Queens, very low on health. Still no energy for a transfuse. And those Lings are a long, long ways away from having speed. That's certainly more common nowadays for Zerg players, is to delay that speed, because so much more often the early game is not a problem for them. It's not proxy 2 racks. It's not a 3 racks Reaper build, but it looks like it's going to be very painful here for Lambo, as he is dangerously close to being overwhelmed. 1 more queen here, and she does have a transfuse, but she can't transfuse herself. So, a drone it is. Better than nothing. And that is it. Clem, feisty. Starting things off with a little bit of cheese. And punishing Lambo's greed. Nicely done. But obviously my problems with the country still existed. Anywho, in the top right of Ancient Cistern, we have a Lambo. In the bottom left, it is Clem. And Clem was a cheeky boy, but it made a lot of sense. He just took away a powerful macro map. Which, I mean, you could kind of say, like, oh, Zerg's like the macro map, but I don't know if that's actually a problem. I feel like this, we've generally agreed upon as community that this whole map pool is favored to Terran. So, I don't know if that's so much a problem, but he gets a swift punch. He kicks Lambo right in the nuts to start things off. And now Lambo can either continue to worry about that opener and go for a faster speed, thus delaying his 3rd hatch or sinking his minerals into faster gas. Or He can just be like, oh, I don't think it's gonna happen again, and kind of roll the dice. So that's not something he has to be concerned of, which usually, if you're facing Clem, again, you would most likely be... Gambling, it's not the right word. You would be pretty safe in assuming that he's going into a 3cc build, but he's really changing it up here. 3 racks to begin with. Forward 2 racks in game number 2. So it is going to be only 3 Reapers. But then behind this, you don't know as the Zerg player, so... 3rd CC builds from Clem. They work wonderfully against his usual opponents over on the European server. There's really no qualms about it. There's actually really, I would say, even not really a necessary change for him in this region. But of course, you don't want to set your sights on only dominating the region, which Clem has pretty much proven to do. The most winningest European regional player, right? You want to set your sights a little bit higher, and you also want to be, if not ahead of the curve, at least on the curve. Be riding that wave. And the wave does seem to be pointing more and more, the wave points, whatever, towards the 2 racks opener being the way to go because of the ambiguity of what goes on behind it. You have the power of the 3 Reapers, which Clem freaking loves. And you have the Scout that goes alongside it. You have the defensive prowess of it as well, because it's very hard to hard counter this build. A Roachborn will not do the trick. We did see Solar go for a counter Ling Baneling bust. And I thought through all of the other responses, all the other follow-ups that could come after a 2-Rex, and I wasn't really sure what would be good against a 3-base Ling Baneling bust. But I'm sure something exists, because if the Ling Baneling bust on 3 bases works against this opener every single time, then Zergs would do it every single time. But no. I would figure that Clem, especially if he scouted the Baneling bust, would be able to defend against it. But that is certainly one problem of this build. No matter if you're following up with a 3cc, which is what Clem is doing, a 2-1-1, or a 4x, your post-Reaper production is not particularly good. Even if it's with 4 barracks. I mean, 4 barracks is something, but it's still not the most amazing thing if someone were to Ling Baneling bust you. But anyway, I'm not sure if Lambo is really willing to gamble on that. He does manage to find 3 Reapers, as his speed did kick in at a more old-fashioned time, I guess is what you would say, old-fashioned time. So his economy, his mineral economy, doesn't feel as good as it could if it, he didn't do that. But he does take out the Reapers before they can join up with the Marines, let's say, or Hellions, or whatever it is that Clem is following this up with, which Lambo does not know. Yes, he does. Just kidding. His Overlord was right there, wasn't it? All right, well, that's usually not supposed to happen. Usually it's supposed to be very hard to tell what's going on behind this, but Clem was unable to get a Marine out to shoo away the Overlord, which is really quite cavalier. And actually, I'm really happy to see that Lambo did that, the more I'm looking at the situation. It does feel like some of the Korean Zergs, because we see the 2-racks opener so much more often from the Korean Terrans, and they face Korean Zergs. Brilliant concept. It does seem like they're so reserved about their Overlord positioning because Korean Terrans were also more likely for a while to open up with a Marine first, like a 1-rack expand Marine first, or whatever, and go chasing 4 Overlords. So I think we're seeing continued meta cycles. First the Korean Terrans, Byun, let's just say it's Byun. First, Byun opens up with Marines to hunt Overlords. So the Korean Zergs get really frustrated at that, so they always play very cautiously with their Overlords. So an Overlord, back here. And back here. Then, you go for the 2-racks opener, which would stop those Overlords from scouting, as Hellions, by the way, might end this game. So the Korean Zergs have no idea what the follow-up is. Oh my god, the Hellions gonna end the game. Oh my god. Oh my god, and the Liberator was killing some stuff as well. Oh my good lord. It's effectively game over. That was, oh my god, that was 19 drones! I didn't even get to explain! Oh my god. Clem, stop. GG's. Ah! Alright. I was hoping for a little more time to explain, but obviously not. So I'll explain. What I was trying to say was that first, have their overlords play cautiously. Second, do something in which the overlords that are played cautiously cannot scout. Third, Zergs figure out that you're no longer opening up with something that can kill their first overlord. They're really audacious with their overlord, and then they just scout everything that follows it up. That might be the cycle that we're going through. Because then the Terrans will then once again open up with something that can kill the first overlord. But as much as I love that Lambo just was like really courageous with the overlord and was like, yeah, you're not gonna do it. Like, it can get in and get out. Like, it's fine. Lambo did not have any lings to stop Hellions. If I had more time, I would have looked to have, seen why did he not have anything to deal with the Hellions, but his queens were guarding against the Liberator, and I'm guessing he didn't make any lings because he didn't expect the Hellions to actually either be created or to be as forward as they were. So he thought he could be getting away with a bit more greed. He did not. He just died. He just died right then and there. No crowd showed up, or no availability. There actually was a bit of a crowd space in the arena, but it was actually quite small. And then I'll explain in a second. Top left it is Lambo, bottom right it is Clem, looking for the fastest best of 5 TvZ finals ever. So, yeah, there was a little bit of crowd at the arena, but two things. One, very few people are willing to go to Saudi Arabia to go watch StarCraft. I mean, very few people are willing to go and sentence. And I think a lot of people, even if they were wondering if they could go, wouldn't know the process. So you're basically taking out the entire international scene. And very few countries make up a crowd entirely based on their own citizens, who also would have to then travel to Riyadh, which many of them probably don't live there. Whatever. And StarCraft 2, I wouldn't say has a significant fan base in that country, unlike perhaps Poland or something. But then two, the other thing is that this place that they were holding Gamers 8 is a festival. Like, Gamers 8 is actually like a festival. It's this huge complex that looks like Disneyland, with like a Main Street Boulevard and like done up in themes. And there's like, carnival games and movie theaters and VR stations and multiple arenas for multiple games and parties and DJs and stuff. So, of the very few people in Saudi Arabia who can easily get to Riyadh, probably not going to go for StarCraft 2. That's what I'm getting at. Anyway, we have another 2 racks opener. It is just 2 racks into the natural command center. Interesting. Into the natural command center. He goes for a high ground command center to freak out Lambo. So Lambo is like, oh my god, he's 2 racksing me again. That son of a bitch. But actually, it's a high ground command center. But what this also does, it's going to safeguard the command center a little bit more against the roach play that Lambo is choosing to do. Now, okay. So this is already working out, I think, so well for Clem, just with the build orders. Byun has proven that the roach opener against this is not a good idea. Now, that doesn't mean that Clem won't mess up. Clem might mess this up. But Byun knows how to defend this type of attack. So the 2 racks, 3 Reaper opener can defend against this. Let's see if Clem knows how. But on top of that, Clem also, with an attempted mind game, secures his home position even further, coincidentally. I mean, Lambo is just on a string of bad luck at this point. Bad luck, as well as, I don't know, I still don't like the choice here. I really think that Byun has proven that this is not something that actually works against the 2 racks. The Reapers can buy time with grenades. The wall has to be broken down even more time. 2 bunkers, I think, are going to be necessary here, because actually it's kind of weird. The ramp is usually seen as a very good defensive tool for the defender, obviously. But actually it's a little more complicated against this. At the end of the day, you can't really get your bunker to reach the units that are attacking your facilities, so whether there's a ramp or not, I suppose. And we know the Overlord's going to be here, so the high ground is, you know, never an issue. One Reaper did fall, by the way. Yeah, but 3 still alive. Marauders have been made, and actually you can at some point chase after this. So even though it looks like, well, hey, the Zerg player can at least kill the supply depots and stall out the production. Actually, at some point, the Terran player might be able to get enough army to even jump after your Roach Ravager. Now, that is the question. That, you know, it's not a guarantee. The factory building a Cyclone is a good sign for Clem's hold. He is delaying stim and combat shields to get to that factory, to get to that Cyclone, but we know that it's a beautiful maneuver to do against someone who's all-inning you. And this isn't all-in. I mean, Lambo has double and triple down on this. This is everything that he's going to have. And it is starting to peck away at the production. Barracks no longer producing those Marauders or Marines. Overlord does get caught with the lifted Barracks, and that is going to take away the high ground vision. One bunker will eventually fall. It's going to be the Barracks, actually, that's targeted. Cyclone still involved. 4 Marauders still involved. One in the bunker here. The bunker does fall as well. Another bunker actually on the left side is another Marauder. And we are losing out on the Roach Ravager. One person still has production immediate to this fight. The other not so much, as Lambo tries to send slow Roaches across the map into the awaiting arms of a Cyclone, by the way. So even though 7 SCVs do go down, Clem is still ahead by 11 workers. Still with a tech lab on a barrack, so we can start up stim, and a 3rd CC behind this all, actually. Lambo's attack does not work out, despite the, as I said, tripling down on it. That might have surprised a little bit more of a loosey-goosey Terran. One who's like, oh, I think I got this, like, I'm fine. It didn't. Clem actually took it very seriously as he should. Clearly, has studied how to defend against those maneuvers as well as the build order. And Lambo is going to lose. Lambo is not willing to give up quite yet. So it looks like he's going to go for a follow-up all-in. Which we know only has so much potential. The Ling addition can complicate matters if the person doesn't have a wall. Suddenly the tanks are going to start misfiring and doing the whole like, oh, I don't know where to fire. They're going to get surrounded. And the corrosive biles are still available. 6 of them, actually. About to be 7. But I mean, if Clem figures out that it's still in 2-base all-in, which he actually hasn't. The Reaper was denied. The SCV might be a little bit late. It's going to see no 3rd hatch to the left. Not going to go check the right before the attack actually happens. But we got a tank on the high ground. Supply depot could be lifted. He sees the army marching across the map at this point. Supply depot lifts. Supply depot lifts. And without the Lings flooding in easy peasy, the extra 5 seconds right there is crucial. It's going to make this hold a little bit easier. I think it was a hold nonetheless, but definitely makes it easier. And that is it. Clem with a sub 20-minute 3-0 to grab another gold medal.